Hello, and welcome to Stuff and Things, Episode 3. Today, we're going to be talking about this. One thing's very important. We're talking about the 2019 Lighthouse, not this. There are some major differences. The 2019 The Lighthouse is about two guys who get stuck in a lighthouse during a long-lasting raging tempest who slowly go mad. It's set in the 1880s in New England. The 2016 The Lighthouse is about two guys stuck in a lighthouse during a long-lasting raging tempest who slowly go mad. It's set in the 1880s in the Irish Sea, thereby making it a completely different movie. Good thing there's not plagiarism laws in Hollywood. Anyway, once again, if you're watching this, know that there's some spoilers. Now for this particular movie, it's not really going to matter, because I'm going to be honest with you. This movie, the 2019 The Lighthouse we're talking about, off the chain crazy. All right? I can describe what happens. Who knows, right? I mean, who knows? So The Lighthouse stars Willem Dafoe and Robert, soon-to-be Batman, Pattinson. It's directed by Robert Eggers. The original story was kicked around by Robert's brother, Max, who was looking for a way to turn this supposedly true story into a feature film. Max had a little trouble doing that. His brother said, hey, let me take a shot at it. Now, Robert Eggers is the director of The Witch, which came out a few years ago and was a highly acclaimed horror movie. I personally haven't seen it. I know people who have and say it's really good. So you definitely might want to check that out. Now, The Lighthouse is about two guys in a very confined space who slowly go crazy. They end up trying to kill each other various ways. And let me tell you, man, it is not for the faint of heart, but I wouldn't exactly describe it as a horror movie. It's more of a psychological movie, definitely kind of like Shutter Island, if you've seen that one. Much more smaller scale. This is an art house flick, okay? So this is the kind of movie you may have friends who wear turtlenecks and blazers who talk about French philosophers. This is their kind of movie. All right, they'll talk about the philosophical implications and the symbolism of various stuff. Who knows, man? I don't know about any of that stuff. All I know is they did a few tricks in this movie to make it stand out a little bit. One, shot in black and white. Two, it's shot in a different aspect ratio. Now this means how it shows up on the screen. We're all used to putting in the DVD and we got the bar at the top and we got the bar at the bottom and the movie in between. That's a 16:9, I think, ratio. This particular movie, they used a different one. They did, I think, a 1:3, 3:9, something like that. You want to know more, look it up. I don't know all those details. But it looks like this. The bars are on the side. So it's almost a square. So that's something right there that's a little different. Now, they had a particular mood they were going for, particularly with a black and white film. They were trying to create a very dark and brooding atmosphere. So there were some options that they had, and the cinematographer decided he was going to go with the lighting in particular. And so what he did is he went out and found himself some old vintage lenses. Now what these things do is they hyper magnify all the light sources in every scene. They magnify them to the point where you see something that looks like the sun sitting in the middle of a table. You can't tell if it's a candle, if it's an oil lamp, nothing. All you see is a bright light. You see that on the wall. You see that in the actual lighthouse itself. You don't actually see much of the actual things that are producing the light. You just see these bright objects. It kind of sets off lots of shadows, all kinds of stuff. Again, artsy. So, getting into the plot of this thing. Okay. I don't know. Two guys show up at the lighthouse. They're changing shifts with two guys who are leaving. They get there. Clearly, Willem Dafoe's character is the older guy. Robert Pattinson's is the younger guy. The younger guy is responsible for doing basically all the bad, dirty jobs that nobody wants to do, while the old guy tends to the actual lighthouse and makes sure it's running, does all that. So he has much more of the cushy job that he's actually earned. And there's a logbook where the older sailor, or I guess lighthouse keeper, has to track down what his young apprentice is doing and making sure he's following all the rules and chain of command and all of that. Now, daily life is not very exciting. Okay, they get up, they fix things in the various parts of the lighthouse, and then they eat, and then they go to bed. And there's usually a large amount of drinking involved. Now, don't worry. If you were wondering, yes, there is male self-pleasure in this movie. Just in case you needed a shot of that. I think there's more than one, actually, several shots of that. You know, just to hammer home the fact that they get kind of bored and don't have a lot to do. Now, one of the other things this movie has is a whole bunch of symbolism. All right, it's an art movie, okay? That's what they're doing here, pushing the art stuff. And art stuff means symbolism. So you got some of these. You also have one of these. And they show up and they mean stuff. Now, we're told the seagulls mean the spirits of dead sailors who crashed somewhere and fly around, and you got to be nice to them and you can't be mean to them. We all know the story of mermaids. They're basically sirens that lure sailors to their death by saying, oh, look, it's a woman, and then, oh, look, it's rocks, and then they crash. Now, this movie takes it a little different way. There's a lot of stuff with the seagulls bothering Robert Pattinson's character. Now, he starts the movie with saying his name is something, and then he changes it to something else later. So it's hard to say what his character really is. I'm just going to call him young guy, and Willem Dafoe is the old guy. Then, as they're going through their daily things, and the young guy is given more and more tasks by the old guy to do, and they have more and more problems. They're counting down the days. I think they have 4 weeks on the lighthouse as their shift, and they're getting ready to go, and then it's time to go, and there's a storm, and they're standing out on the edge waiting for the boat to come pick them up, and nobody comes. This is where it starts to go downhill, quick, fast, and in a hurry. We don't have a whole lot of sense of time from this point forward. We don't know how long time elapses one way or the other, but it's clear things go bad. We have a lot of wackiness. We have Robert Pattinson's character just going through his daily business, and suddenly one day he turns on the faucet and what looks like black goo is coming out of the faucet. That's not good. So he goes to figure out what it is. He goes to the cistern and he finds a dead seagull in it. It's somehow managed to get in the cistern and drowned in there. So he takes it out and throws it on the ground, and he gets harassed by a seagull. Now, if you're a member of PETA, you're going to want to skip this part of the movie, because Robert Pattinson channels what I assume will be the anger he will have when he plays Batman next year. And he takes this seagull that's bothering him by the neck and beats it to death on the side of the cistern. He gives it a good 15 or 20 whacks and kills it. Now this becomes a bad situation for old guy. Old guy is now freaking out. You doomed us. We're going to be stuck here forever. Oh no, you killed a seagull. Young guy says, whatevs. Now, one of the ongoing themes in this movie is young guy wants to get up and run the lighthouse. Old guy won't let him, keeps it under lock and key. So, of course, that means we've got the mysterious MacGuffin thing where he's got to figure out what's happening in the lighthouse. So he wants to sneak up the stairs and peek in there and look. And slowly but surely, they're both been locked in this little lighthouse place for so long, they start to lose their grip on reality. And one day, when young guy sneaks up the stairs to look what's going on, he is confronted with a giant tentacle, like an octopus tentacle, running around up there, while hearing Willem Dafoe's character engage in man self-love. Again, a little weird. Not sure if that's reality or not. You're hoping not, but who knows? So he goes about his business, each of them kind of at this point barking at each other, and then they start to have a major crisis. Again, I don't know if this is a week after they were supposed to leave, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, who knows? It's a long time. The entire time the storm is raging and the seas are too rough for anyone to come. So they realize they're going to have to figure out how to survive. But the major problem they run into is running out of booze. They run out of booze. Terrible. What are they going to do? Well, how about drinking kerosene? Because that seems like a brilliant idea, so that's what they do. Now, they do water it down. It's not straight kerosene at the beginning. Towards the end, it becomes straight kerosene. I can only assume that when you're going half mad from boredom and general confinement, adding kerosene to the mix probably doesn't help your sanity. So then it gets wacky. All right, young guy starts having all kinds of hallucinations. He's hallucinating about everything. He sees mermaids. He runs out and sees dead people. He sees heads of people. He sees all kinds of craziness. He has sex with a mermaid. Sex with a mermaid, because it then morphs into William Dafoe's character. And you're like, oh God, what's happening? Oh God. Slowly but surely, these guys start to not trust each other. They start to hate each other. And then they get drunk and they cheer and sing songs. So it's kind of this weird dichotomy going on where they hate each other when they're sober and like each other when they're drunk. And eventually we get the situation where young guy gets hold of the logbook and he sees what old guy has written about him. And none of it's good. Dereliction of duty, doesn't follow orders, all of this stuff. And so young guy's had enough. And so they get into fisticuffs. And they get into fisticuffs several times in this movie. But at the beginning, it's kind of like play wrestling and they just kind of laugh about it. But this time, not so much. And so he basically beats Willem Dafoe's character up and forces him to start saying all these placating things like, you're better than me, and I was wrong, and you are a better lighthouse keeper than me. And he forces Willem Dafoe to crawl like a dog to a hole in the ground outside of the lighthouse. And Willem Dafoe gets in it, and young guy buries him alive. Not kidding. Crawls like a dog to a grave, gets buried alive. Okay, why not? So, young guy goes back in and picks up his can of kerosene and starts chugging it down, thinking all things are good. Now, all of a sudden, Willem Dafoe, who apparently has dug out of the grave, buries an axe in him, right in the shoulder. He gets an axe right here. Now, this causes lots more problems, but it doesn't end well for Willem Dafoe. Because despite having an axe in his this shoulder, he's able to pick up with his free hand, like I think it's an iron, and he smashes Willem Dafoe right in the head with it. And then smashes him in the head again. And then once he falls down, smashes him in the head again and again and again and again with blood, bleh, bleh, bleh sounds. So now we've got just straight up murder. Okay. They each tried to just kill each other. It's unfortunate that Willem Dafoe's character was not a better aimer of the axe, because it really does cost him in the end. Now, that is almost the end of the movie. There's one more shot. There's no explanation for it. We have no idea how we get here. But suddenly, we have young guy laying on the ground outside of the lighthouse. He ain't got no clothes on. He's covered in seagulls, and they are eating him. And he's alive, because you can see him twitching, while they pick at his innards. And then fade to black. Now, that's it. That's the plot of this movie. Like I said, it's a little out there. It's a little crazy. Now, that being said, stylistically, you get a very good idea of how it feels to be inside a lighthouse with only 2 people in it. And you having to share the same room over and over again. Every day after day, and eating the same kind of stuff. It looks very, very pretty, okay? The camera, the way the camera filters out the light, the black and white setting, the very attention detailed production design, all the period pieces are there, the costumes, it looks straight out of the 1850s. It's very correct. So it is a pretty movie, but it is, you know, not very straightforward. It's a little, you know, a little crazy, okay? You know, Avengers Endgame, this is not, okay? You're going to have to try to figure out what's going on in this movie. It's supposed to make you think and, you know, what's happening and what is this symbolism? And did he really do this and did he really do that? And was there really another dude on the island or was it just him going crazy? Who knows, man? I don't know. I didn't write it. And, you know, want to find out, look up an interview with Robert Eggers and see if he says. Now, one thing I did find interesting, because I did watch the DVD extras when I rented this from Redbox, it was Robert Pattinson said he was looking for the craziest script he could find. And he got a call from Robert Eggers, who said, man, have I got a crazy script for you. And Robert Pattinson said, oh yeah, sign me up for that. That looks insane. And then he found out Willem Dafoe was in the other role, and he's like, wow, that's even better. That guy plays crazy better than anybody. So what does The Lighthouse have going for it? Technically, looks spectacular, okay? The black and white footage, the way the lighting is set up, the production design, the costumes, all spot on, all very technically sound, looks really good. The actors, Robert Pattinson, you know, people can rest easy. When he plays Batman next year, he should be okay, assuming he gets a decent script, because he's got some serious acting chops. He stands toe-to-toe with Willem Dafoe in the crazy department, and he does a fantastic job. Willem Dafoe is Willem Dafoe, always a fantastic actor. He speaks a little bit too much, probably like he came out of Pirates of the Caribbean in this. A little avast ye matey kind of talk. A little bit odd, but, you know, whatever. It's Willem Dafoe. He can get away with pretty much whatever he wants. But those two guys play off of each other amazingly well. Now, as far as the overall plot and the kind of things that are happening in it, that's going to be an acquired taste. If you like movies that have a lot of symbolism in them, that have a lot of weird stuff going on that you're going to ask a bunch of questions about, like, gee, is that weird? Is that not weird? Do you think this was real? Do you think that was real? What does it all mean? This is a good movie for you. If you're more of I like a linear, straightforward story that starts and then has a middle and then has an end, and I don't have to ask a bunch of questions afterwards, this movie may be very frustrating for you. The Lighthouse has done well on the awards circuit. It's got one Academy Award nomination for Best Cinematography, which seems fitting for the overall mood you get in this movie. But that's not the only one. It is nominated for 4 Golden Schmo Awards. Now, I don't know what a Golden Schmo Award is, but it's got 4 of them. Okay? Weirdest movie, I think, what is it called? Trippiest movie. Best horror movie. Best supporting actor, Willem Dafoe. And most underrated movie of the year. Now, I don't know where you watch the Golden Schmoes, but I'm going to be rooting for The Lighthouse. But the most important award by far, the one that will show the world that Robert Eggers is ready for the next billion-dollar franchise, is the AARP Movies for Grown-Ups Award. This movie has been nominated in the category of Best Buddy Movie. And I'm not kidding. Best Buddy Movie. Now, when I think buddy movies, I think Step Brothers, maybe? Maybe Talladega Nights? Perhaps Rush Hour, Lethal Weapon. A comedy where 2 guys play off of each other and stuff happens. This is not a comedy. In fact, in this buddy movie, one guy goes after the other dude with an axe and the other one buries him alive and beats him to death with an iron. I'm not sure how much of a buddy movie that really is. So perhaps the AARP Movies for Grown-Ups Awards Committee should maybe narrow down that title a little more. But anyway, I'm sure if it wins that, because I can't think of another better buddy movie than The Lighthouse. Robert Edgar's career will be set. And we'll see him in the next phase of Star Wars, or perhaps the next Marvel 5 phase, or whatever number they're up to now. I can't keep track. So that's it for my review and discussion of The Lighthouse. A trip into madness, male self-pleasure, naked mermaids, and murdering of seagulls. If that's your thing, hey, this movie's for you. If it's not, don't watch it. As always, click the buttons wherever they might be. Subscribe, like, leave a comment, and I will see you later and talk to you then. Late.